Moderator, guest speakers, participants, members of the media, members of the Invest Barbados team, welcome. It would have been our absolute pleasure to be with you in person today. However, it is with the greatest of confidence in the technology available to us and our island's telecommunication infrastructure that we bring you this virtual session, and in doing so, remain safely connected. Though we come from different ends of the world, we are together in the challenges brought forward from the year 2020. However, with equally collective hope, we are excited about the future and all of the emerging opportunities for investment. Indeed, it is this sector that has helped to sustain us and keep us productive. Our cutting-edge digital and wireless technology has ably supported the effective global delivery of services, and this sector is ever evolving. Foreign-owned companies have long and successfully undertaken a range of ICT activities in Barbados, from software development to processing and information management. We have also led the region in areas of fintech, including application of blockchain technology, the introduction of digital currency, and a regulated sandbox for the same. An example of a government committed to the facilitation of research and development and keen to support innovation and growth. There are also opportunities for joint ventures and outsourcing. As such, if it hasn't been made clear to you, ladies and gentlemen, Barbados is very much open for business, and our investment climate remains warm and welcoming. It is therefore my pleasure to extend to you an invitation to explore the investment opportunities within our ICT sector. I'll invite our distinguished panelists to engage you on why Barbados. But know that should you require any points of clarification or any guidance beyond this session, the Invest Barbados team is very much here for you. We look forward to additional engagement with you and ultimately welcoming you to our shores. Without further ado, all that is left for me is to hand over to our moderator, Joel, to guide you along with this session. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Ms. Braffett, for the introductory remarks. We have 3 panelists today. I will be a panelist as well. We have Mr. Philip Lewis, Dr. Colin Depardine, and myself. But before we get too far into this, we'd like to get to know you a little bit. So we have a poll that we're going to throw up on the screen and have you walk through this with us. What we'd like to get a sense for, and this is, I believe, on an anonymous basis, so we just see the results, is for the people that are attending today. In the next 3 years, 1 to 3 years, are you interested in research, outsourcing, starting a new business, expanding an existing business, maintaining an existing business, or other things? If you can click on one that's appropriate for you and hit submit, we'll be able to see the results fairly quickly. And let me say that, on behalf of Invest Barbados, although I don't work directly with Invest Barbados, I work alongside of Invest Barbados often in these promotions. So while Andrew is collecting the results and he'll throw the results up, when we know that people are interested in the island, the kinds of things that they're interested in, I know that Invest Barbados is there to serve you and help you and work with you. And the panelists and companies like ours and other service providers on the island, we're here to help you if you're interested in the island. I often say to people, I don't care whether you come in to compete with us or to work alongside us or to work with us. Come to Barbados and work in Barbados.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joel. It is a wonderful place to work, a wonderful place to live, and we have all the technology, as you will see from our esteemed panelists, to make sure that you can actually run your business from sitting in Barbados. And we have a lot of examples of companies who've actually come and done that, and have their headquarters operated here and are doing other parts of the operation in other parts of the world and have been very successful at it and has been growing over the years in operation. So a bright, sunny island with everything to provide for you. What better place to be than right here?
So, Andrew, I think we come back to the results at this point. So this is interesting. We have about a third saying that they would start a new business, research opportunities, a few saying explore outsourcing, and a few saying other, which I'm sure that your Invest Barbados officers would be glad to explore these things with you. So thank you for that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is Philip Lewis. He's the managing partner and the lead consultant for innovation and transformation at LCI Consulting, Inc. They're a management consultancy firm, and he's got over 20 years of experience in the in this industry. And Philip, you are on.
Great. Thank you, Joel, and thank you everyone for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you about ICT, the ICT service sector in Barbados, and also about why Barbados. So first, we're going to speak about some drivers for change that mean that now is a greater time as ever to invest in ICT in Barbados. We're also going to look at the available technology and infrastructure that already exists in Barbados, and the business environment and support that exists for all your business needs. And closing off my segment will be the value proposition for Barbados. So as everyone knows, Barbados has the warm climate that's great for tourists visiting our island, but it's also a warm climate that's great for doing business in Barbados. We have a stable government, we have low taxes, it's a very safe country. But for a while, Barbados, we've known that we have to diversify the economy away from just hospitality. And we have to look at other service sectors and other industries. And what we've seen is that technology and ICT is a sweet spot for Barbados, and certainly an area where we can provide growth and growth opportunities for businesses. But the impact of COVID is that it has accelerated all of those plans. So the private sector have had to put all their business online if it wasn't online before. And we know that we are all remote working. And a lot of us are having to deal with the challenge of homeschooling. My wife and I have a 7- and 9-year-old. So every day is a bit of a battle. So that certainly has made the ICT sector in Barbados a much greater priority than it was before. Case in point, Barbados has a Ministry of Information and Technology that's focused on developing that ICT sector. And what they've been doing in the past is providing some of the needed foundational legislation, like the Data Protection Act. But they've also been busy developing new government services to put all the government services online. And we'll speak a bit more on that later as well. And a bit now about the available technology and infrastructure. This is a bit of a busy slide and technical slide, but the overall point is that Barbados certainly has a superior network and technology infrastructure that can support any type of ICT business, or any type of business that needs technology in order to conduct its business. So on the mobile front, Barbados has a 4th generation LTE mobile network, or I should say 2 mobile networks, because we have 2 main telecommunications service providers on the island. And both mobile networks provide island-wide coverage or near island-wide coverage. And we provide all the services that you would expect, like international roaming and bundling of services and minutes and so on. And the penetration rate is very high at over 100%. We provide high-speed internet service to both business and residential, and connectivity is via fiber to the home or fiber to the building, again from both providers. And again, this is island-wide coverage. And the speeds that we're talking about are packages from 300 megabits per second, 600 megabits per second, and residential packages up to 1 gig. And for business, you can get far higher speeds on some of their dedicated data networks. My brother lives in London, And because of COVID, he's come back to Barbados, and his data speed at home is higher than what he has in London in Barbados. So that's just to say that, you know, he, like everybody else, is remote working, but remote working in Barbados, and that's very, very possible. And we see a lot of people choosing that option with the welcome stamp that has been made available for people to come to Barbados for 12 months and work from Barbados. Internet connectivity from Barbados or I should say, the internet is available from points of presence in both Miami and New York, and that's via subsea fiber cables, again from 2 providers using different landing sites. So that's important because what it says is that there is redundancy and network resilience. So that means that you can have your primary data circuits with one provider and backup data circuits with another provider. And no matter what, you won't be out of service. Should anything happen, should one subsea fiber be cut, you should still be able to have business, be able to conduct your business. And that's a model that a lot of businesses in Barbados adopt to ensure that they can always conduct business when they need internet connectivity. So there's a lot of business support for ICT companies or any type of company setting up in Barbados with a dependency on technology, which nowadays, again, because of COVID, is almost every company. In Barbados, locally, we have network operating centers and service operating centers like North Point Consulting. And we have a variety of call centers. So these companies can monitor your network. They can provide security, reliability, and ensure that your network is always up and running from Barbados. There are a variety of ICT support companies. You've got some of the bigger well-known names such as Fujitsu and IBM in Barbados, but you also have a plethora of local companies offering a wide range of ICT specific services like Sun Isle Communications, and there are many others. But you also have business support companies. So whether it's human resources, accounting, legal, offshore handling companies, and banking, of course. These companies in Barbados are all very used to being able to support ICT companies or companies from a wide range of background and able to provide the resources that they need or the professional services that are required. In Barbados, we've been lucky when we talk about technology skills and technology experience. So because of our geography and background with the development of telecommunications, Barbados has always been a hub site for the East Caribbean and the Caribbean at large. And that means there's always been a lot of investment in telecommunications, infrastructure, and importantly, in the people and skills in Barbados. So because of that, there's no shortage of technology and ICT skills and experience in Barbados, as we've been providing these services across the Caribbean for decades now. There are also a wide variety of online services that enable you to run your business smoothly and effectively. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of government services that are online now. The government has put a large number of their licensing requirements online, and most of their government services can now be paid for online. Certainly all taxes can be paid for online, and national insurance contributions can be paid for online. The government is also looking at a national ID, which will continue to make their services efficient, highly efficient and effective. There are a large number of banks in Barbados to support your requirements, and those banks have certainly taken use of technology to provide a lot of card services online or through their mobile data platforms. Most cards in Barbados are either tied to Visa or MasterCard, but of course all the other services are available as well. And of course, Even before COVID, but now even more so with COVID, there has been a large increase in e-commerce and e-commerce sites and services that have launched. So whether it's vehicle tracking to save cost on fuel or delivery services and the like, there are a large number of e-commerce services and platforms, as well as all the widely used international platforms are available and frequently used in Barbados. And there's a high level of technology adoption in Barbados from within the schools, and we'll hear more about this from Colin as he speaks about the education and the adoption of technology within schools. But right through the business sector, there is a high level of technology adoption and use of services. So that's just to say that Barbados is a good local market for any ICT service, as well as a market that's able to support your service across the Caribbean and internationally as well. So the value proposition for Barbados. So we've spoken about the business environment, and this is a very good sunny climate, not just for the tourists, but for doing business here with all the support that's required. Great technology infrastructure where we have mobile, 4G mobile from a number of providers. So you have the choice of providers, but you can also be sure that your services will always work through redundancy and resilience within that technology infrastructure. And that applies for both mobile, internet, TV services are also through the fiber infrastructure, and entertainment services as well. There's a full suite of technology support services and technology support companies providing those services. So we heard Ms. Brathwaite speak to the potential for outsourcing in Barbados. And from the poll, we saw a number of companies are looking to either start a new company or new business or expand their business. And the point is Barbados can certainly partner with you to make sure that your business is successful. Sophisticated business services that support the business like human resourcing and accounting, change and transformation and project management are all par for course in Barbados. And there's a high technology adoption. And again, local technology, skills and experience available on hand. And we have a number of examples of businesses in the ICT sector that have started up. Some of them have got international investment and are playing in the international field right now. And we'll hear more about that later as well. So with that, thank you again. And I'll hand back over to Joel.
Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you for laying the groundwork for where we're going today. We're going to move on, and our next speaker is going to be Dr. Colin Depperdine, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology at the University of West Indies Cave Hill campus in Barbados. So, Dr. Depperdine, yeah, the floor is yours.
Chair. Thank you, Joel. I'll get straight to it. I clicked just now and I went straight to the first slide. So let me start here. So afternoon, everyone. This slide here is going to give it's basically giving an overall snapshot of education in Barbados. And I thought this was an important slide because we built out this structure and network over a relatively short period of independence when compared to others, our 54 years of independence. So as you can see, we have straight from daycare, nursery, up to tertiary. And we also have the vocational and technical aspects as well as special needs school that deals with students with disabilities. In every single case, we have mixtures of private and public, or those that are a combination of both. The public schools dominate in terms of numbers, but we do have quite a few children in the private schools. I should point out that the tertiary level, we have the two main entities, the Barbados Community College that deals with associate and undergraduate programs. While the Cave Hill campus is a campus of the University of the West Indies. It's the regional campus of the English-speaking Caribbean and is not rated #1. And we offer the usual short courses, undergraduate, postgraduate, and research areas. The government does place a special emphasis also on the vocational and technical needs as opposed to just academic. And we have the Simon Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology, and we have the TVET Council. Both are our government. They do work with the private sector, but they're both run by the Barbados government. And we do have private entities that do similar things as well. One last thing I'd like to say, we do have the special needs schools, mainly private. There are some public ones. And I just point this out because even though we have separate schools, students with disabilities are encouraged to go through the mainstream system as well. And I am a testament to that. I am dyslexic and I have gone through the mainstream system to reach this point as well. So it's possible. I just put this slide up here to show you that we do take very seriously quality assurance. Let's start with the university. The university is accredited. Barbados Community College is going through an accreditation process as well. But regardless of that, they have a number of 2+2 programs that with the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus, and other international universities. So they are recognized as well. The Institute of Technology offers a variety of certifications in the IT and digital electronics world. And students can take tests in those international certifications. And similarly, the TVET Council follows the National Vocational Qualifications and Caribbean Qualifications. And again, their students undertake internationally recognized tests and so on to get the relevant certifications. I should point out at this point that the secondary school system is bound and guided by the Caribbean Examinations Council, or better known as CXC. And this is a regional examining body of which the board is made up of ministers of education and members from the University of West Indies and so on. And they dictate the common curriculum at this level across the region. They also have primary, but in the case of Barbados, we have our own primary school curriculum that is common across all the primary schools. I should end with 2 more points here in this slide. Those institutions that deal with students with disabilities, the staff are highly qualified, from certifications all the way up to PhD level. And they do an excellent job, I must say, in dealing with my interactions with them. Finally, I'd like to say that we realize everything is not perfect, and the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training has started an education reform project or process. So far, they've looked at inclusion, students with disabilities included in the mainstream system. They've looked at special needs. They are now looking at the transition from nurse primary to secondary and so on. So that is now in train and in progress. I thought it would be important to highlight and emphasize how we in the education sector responded to the pandemic. In our response, this is all led by the Ministry of Education, and obviously the health aspects are guided by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. But the overriding priority for the country has always been the safety, health and safety of our students. So when the pandemic hit the world around late March, April last year, we immediately shut down all schools and spent the next 3 weeks getting everyone online. And this goes back to what Philip said earlier about high technology adoption. Because we have that high adoption, we were able to get online rather quickly and get the issues of teaching online going and so on. We use a variety of software such as Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and so on. Depending, the government is using Google Classrooms. My university is using Microsoft Teams and Zoom, as well as the community college and the Institute of Technology. But the point I want to emphasize is that we came together, the ministry called the necessary meetings of principals and so on. We came to a common understanding and we were able to get it going as one, which you haven't seen in many countries. The other thing I would like to emphasize is that we've had no outbreaks of any sort in any school in Barbados, 0. And this is because we have those youngsters that have been infected with COVID, that was at their homes, and it never reached the schools because of our protocols that we have in place. So we've had none. okay? And this is not an exaggeration. Now over to the issue of ICT education and training. Not only do we have the technology adoption, but we have a good solid focus in terms of the curriculum. If I start at the primary and secondary level, CXC created the curriculum for the secondary school level. So you have the equivalent of what people may know as O levels and A levels, or what we call the CSEC and CAPE. But they have computer science, information technology, digital media. They're now looking at artificial intelligence. The government of Barbados has recently introduced a coding and robotics curriculum starting at the age of 7 and ends around the age 13, 14, I believe. I did participate in helping them with some aspects, not all of it. And that was beginning to roll out just before the pandemic hit. So I'm not quite sure where it is now. But the objective there is they wanted to make sure ICT was introduced earlier into the system and not wait till later on, like 16 or 17 years old. And also start at the primary school level. The Barbados Community College has associate degrees in computer science and information technology, and that allows them to get into other schools, other universities as well as ours. As you can see here, the Institute of Technology, they don't focus so much on the programming aspect, but they do other areas that will be linked to ICT, such as drone and industrial robotics training and welding. In my campus, we have computer science, information technology, software engineering, and you see the list there, master's programs and research. One last thing I would say is special needs schools tend to they don't have a curriculum per se. It depends on the area of the disability they're looking at, but they tend to have projects, a project-based approach in terms of STEM and so on. The last slide I have here is to just emphasize our collaboration with the private sector, which many of you would be anxious to hear about. At the level of internships, the Institute of Technology, the community college and our campus all have internships with the private sector, including our special needs schools. They too have internships, and occasionally some secondary and primary schools, not so much internships, but do have projects with the private sector to encourage the development of entrepreneurship and IT and so on within the schools. Curriculum development is a collaborative process in Barbados. We work together with the private sector in terms of making sure we are current and up to date, but we also work together among ourselves. So the curriculum, for example, of the primary schools is heavily influenced by the School of Education at KFIL. I have participated in developing curriculum for secondary schools and years ago, BCC. So I just wanted to see that we work as one as in the island and we do collaborate. In terms of research, we have the course at KFIL campus, the Pure and Applied. What I have there is a little bit, I couldn't fit all onto the slide, but one of the important points is that our students, upon graduating, can go straight into the sector in the private and public sector, but also within research, we do work with the private sector to solve industry-related problems. The last thing I would like to point out before my time runs out is for the last 2 years, we've had something called the Science and Technology Festival, which is essentially the schools and the private sector coming together and the public sector to, it's like a science fair, bringing together and exhibiting all of those areas done within education, within the private sector, to get the public involved as well as the students involved. And I would just say that in the first time we ran it, we had 1,600 school children coming from every possible part of Barbados in every school. And then the next year it grew and it was growing. Unfortunately, we can't have it this year because obviously of the pandemic. But I want to highlight the importance, that highlights the importance that we have in Barbados of STEM by the rapid growth of attendance and participation. So I will end here and turn over to Joel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Depperdine. If we had any questions about the school system, hopefully you'll be around for the Q&A at the end. I should let people know that they can type questions in on the Q&A down below. Towards the end, Ken Campbell is going to help me take some of those questions, and the panelists will be there to answer them as we go. We have a second quick poll that we would like. And if you could throw that up, Andrew, thank you very much. So we'd also like to get a sense for what the main business challenge that you are currently facing, whether it's COVID disruption, visibility or market access, finance or banking skills availability, technical resources, regulations, bureaucracy, economic uncertainty. And I'd like to encourage you to click on your response and submit that response. On the last poll, I think we got about two-thirds. So I think Andrew would like us to do better this time. And that will give us a sense for what we would see out in the marketplace. So what's your current business challenge? And it would be nice to get you to click on one of these things. While you're doing that, I think we've had the opportunity now to hear from Philip around the structural capital, the infrastructure, and things that we have on the island. And I think that Dr. Depperdine, speaking from the university perspective, but I have to thank him for covering the entire educational sector as well. The idea here being is that if you came to Barbados on the special stamp program and you came for a year and you brought your kids with you, you'll find that the education system is particularly good in Barbados. I left Barbados when I was 13. So I came to high school in Canada, in university in Canada. And I can tell you that my foundational years in Barbados set me well on the track for the kinds of things that I did in the Canadian environment. So a quick look at some of the results here. The two big ones: economic uncertainty, 28%, disruption due to COVID, 26%. Those two things. Visibility and market access, 20%. I won't go through all of them, but thank you very much for having given us some feedback in the form of this poll. I'd introduce the next speaker, but it's me. So I let them move along to my slides. And I should have control here. So let me tell you a little bit about our operations. And I present this mostly as a case study, because we've been in Barbados now for a number of years. We've been in Barbados, actually, the company was set up 30 years ago. It was set up by an insurance company called Confederation Life in Canada. And we've been growing the company ever since we took over operations about 20 years ago. And frankly, we cover a spectrum. We do business process outsourcing, we do IT skills in IT consulting, and we do knowledge process outsourcing. So a little bit more, well, a lot more than the heads down kinds of things that you would see in many organizations in operations. So we cover quite the spectrum. We ended up in Barbados partly because, well, I'm a dual citizen, Barbadian and Canadian, and I was looking for opportunities. And I was at one of these seminars, but it was a live seminar when the minister at the time, Philip Goddard, was presenting, and he humored me. As a young man, I was telling him how I wanted to invest in Barbados and come back and have a business in Barbados. Fast forward another 10 years later, when I actually showed up and took control of the operations that you see in the bottom corner there, and I went into Minister Farley's office at the time, and the guy who was there was the Consul General in Toronto that had entertained me in my meeting with Minister Goddard. So let me say that of course Barbados has a special affinity to me, but I would say in terms of ease of access and language and time zones and political stability and legal frameworks and all those kinds of things that you get in Barbados, it makes for a phenomenally good working environment. Philip talked a lot about the structural capital. He talked about the infrastructure. He talked about the telecommunications and things that's there. Dr. Depperdine talked about some of the intellectual capital and how it's built, and the human capital that's there. And I have to say that we've had great success with the staff and the team and the people that we've got in Barbados. Derek Bowen in the top right corner runs our operation on a day-to-day basis. And then we have strong teams of managers and supervisors that help lead our organization on a regular, on an ongoing basis. Having said that, we pay particular attention to things like human resource management. We work with the union, the local union, Barbados Workers Union, and there's an extremely solid labor scene in Barbados. I have to say that in terms of working I have worked in the UK, in the US, in Canada, and in Barbados. And the labor and the human capital that we have on the island meets or exceeds some of the other human resources and human capital that I've seen in other locations and other operations. The ecosystem. So we've talked about the infrastructure on the island. We've talked about some of the things that is there. We've talked about the school system and how it develops extremely competent people. One part of our operation is handling insurance claims, and our insurance claims adjudicators that we have, many of them have university degrees, or they're studying for the university degree. So they bring a high level of competence to the organization. Two of the things that I look to, two books, The Death of Distance by Francis Carencroft, really talked about the fact that we are in an environment where distance isn't a barrier for getting work done. The COVID it's brought digital transformation into organizations, and it's hit a lot of us with the fact that we don't have to be side by side to get job done. And we have people who are working for clients in the UK, in the US, and in Canada, and we work as if we were in their offices, working with them. So The Death of Distance speaks to that. So does Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat. And if you haven't had a chance to look for that, just even get to the first chapter of that, it really talks about how we've level set the world, in that our access in our to skills, to technology, to people, to businesses that help us get things done. The proximity it's amazing. So having said that, those are two things that are key. Let me talk briefly about our COVID experience. So I was due to head to the island in March, and I was all set. I had a ticket and I was ready to go down. And 2 days before I got on the plane, was supposed to get on the plane, I canceled my trip. And I called Derek Bowen and I said, Derek, I said, what's our business continuity plan? When's the last time we've tested it? And we had a business continuity plan that said if something hit and happened, we would take people and they would go work from home. And I spoke to him on a Wednesday. By the following Thursday, we had 200 people moved to working from home. So when Philip talked about the fact that we had the infrastructure and the high-speed and internet access, we had people who had internet access at home to sufficiently continue to do their work. We took their computers physically, we put them on trucks, we shipped them to people's homes, and we set them up, and we didn't miss a day of operations in the process. We moved them in waves. By the following Friday, Derek was actually on a call-in show speaking about what we had done to move 200 people to work from home. What's the impact of that? The impact of that is that our customers, our clients who are dealing with us, while they had disruption in other parts of their organization, we were able to prop them up and support them and to carry them through on the pandemic. And I have to say that I'd like to take credit for it, but I hand that to Derek and the staff because they're physically on the island and they're the ones who had to make this happen on a day-to-day basis and make this happen on a rail basis. So I tell you that to illustrate the fact that all the things that Philip said about the infrastructure and the technology, it's real. All the things that Dr. Depperdine said about people and their skills and their flexibility and their ability to do things, that is real as well. And that's particularly good. In terms of our relations with government on the island, it's good. You have access to the things you need access to, whether it's through Invest Barbados or through other government services. You have a formal system, which anybody who's grown up in British colonial system understands and knows, but it's fair, it's efficient, it's effective. You have competent local infrastructure. You have real-time access. We operate on a real-time basis on computer systems and computer networks that are in North America or the UK. And we do that from Barbados, where it's a great place to work. So we have that going for us. I'll talk briefly about a couple of projects that we have on the go. We are in 2021. I know that Dr. Depperdine talked about artificial intelligence. Well, we are launching an artificial intelligence-based transcription service. So traditional transcription services, and we've trained a number of people on the island on medical transcription. And these are skills that can be used for other transcription services as well. And we've done some transcription work in the UK and in the US. But we're flipping the model on its head. The technology is to the point where voice to text technology is so good today that you can get a large part of the transcription instead of somebody sitting with a headset like I have, listening to somebody's voice and keying away at the keyboards to make things happen. We are doing the first pass that's AI based and doing voice to text. And then we'll use our transcriptionists to do the editing, to do the cleanup, and then before this goes back to clients and customers. And we've launched this platform. We're looking for partners to work with on this. So if there's anybody out there on the call today, you can find us through Invest Barbados. But that's one example. We're working with a local company that's going to be in the food delivery business. We're working with a CARICOM agency, building out Knowledge Hub for them, which will connect a number of the CARICOM member countries in terms of information sharing and knowledge sharing. So we're building that out for them. And then as we go into 2022, we have one other project that we intend to launch, which is a blockchain-based insurance benefit system, which we've done a fair bit of work and design on, but we're going to get our AI-based transcription service up and running before we come back and deal with that. The reason I put these things on the table is to tell you that there aren't any limitations to you working in Barbados in terms of the technology skills and the infrastructure and the network and the people that we have, and government is there. And government is fully supportive. So I thought I'd be brief today. I normally take about 40 minutes to do this presentation in its long form, but I think I've made the key points that I wanted to make. So I would thank you for that. And I'm going to invite Ken Campbell to come into the conversation with me and to help us facilitate the Q&A that you might have put on the question boards, and you can still put things on the question board. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Joel, and all the panelists. We have just a couple of questions that have come in on the Q&A and also some via our emails, but from Missed Barbados. This one I think can go to Joel and supported by Philip. They ask, you mentioned the existence of data centers here in Barbados. Are any of them certified to international standards? And has any research been done on the feasibility of such an investment, whether through public-private partnerships or through government investment? So Philip, if you can address that, and then Joel, whether you know what are the international standards to which your company is working. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So I'll kick off and answer the first part of the question of the data centers that exist in Barbados. There are a handful of data centers. So the government have their own data center for their own networks and services. The telecom service providers, they both have data centers on island, and they provide you know, a suite of services from those data centers, such as co-location services, or they can provide you know, spin up servers and so on, or backup services and so on. I'm not exactly sure the level, if those data centers are tier 2 or tier 3 or so on. But I do know they're supported by you know, a range of skilled individuals and businesses rely on those data centers for their services all the time.
And Philip, I think a couple of other things I would add to what you just said is that from the island, you have access to, you know, world-class data centers, whether that's AWS or Azure or any of the platforms that are out there and available. And so when you use a platform like that, you get to take advantage of their certifications and processes. And I know with we've talked to people, we haven't been pressed. We meet all of the standards from a privacy perspective, GDPR, PIPEDA in Canada, HIPAA in the US. So we step up to those international standards. And we've toyed with getting ISO 27000.
No, I was just trying to see if educational wise, if there's anything I could possibly add that I haven't said. What I would say is that we do look at some of those areas in the campus. But what we find that if there are any gaps when the students go to the particular enterprise, the training is relatively straightforward. They do pick up very well because of the foundation that they've picked up over the years. So I just add that point.
Okay, well, thank you, because that would lead into also the next question. One, Alan, we appreciate your feedback into your satisfaction with the content. But Anton has asked, are there any mechanisms for the educational component to be in sync with A, the future needs of the private sector entities, and B, in line with R&D, where it suggests that we are going?
Okay, let's see. There are different mechanisms to keep in sync with the private sector. You have the formal ones that, for example, in a university setting where you have every 5 years, or for example, I just say 5 years, a quality review, and then you bring the private sector to comment. But obviously that's too long a period. So what tends to happen is you do have relationships with the private sector in a variety of ways. Typically, the most obvious one would be those you build with the internships with the private sector. But in the case of my faculty, we recently started, we realized that those things are a little sporadic. So we recently started something called the Dean's Council, a very strange name, but nevertheless, it is focused on providing, the council or the team consists of persons from the private sector. It is chaired by the private sector, and they will guide the faculty in and keeping in touch with the needs of the private sector as a whole. So this obviously would include the ICT needs as well. In terms of research, we have both the pure and applied research at the campus. So the applied part would be in sync, would be in tandem with the private sector. Those projects will be those that the private sector has brought to us or we have brought to them. And so if someone in the private sector requires a particular, they started a particular product and requires some sort of research to be done to solve a problem, let's just say the creation of an algorithm off the top of my head, then they can come to us and we can make a decision. We will work together and decide the best way, whether it fits in with a particular lecturer's research, whether you need to bring in students at the undergraduate level to tackle it, or whether you want to start a whole new research program with a postgraduate student and a lecturer to resolve it. And then obviously when you resolve it, that then becomes part of the solution that the company or so on would implement in their product development and so on. So I don't know if that answers the question, but just showing that there are many avenues to get to the point in terms of collaboration.
Okay then, Anton. If you have any further questions, you can always reach out to us and we will forward the specifics to Colin and he can respond directly. Jules has asked, what is the process to secure a visa to live and work in Barbados? I guess I will just introduce that very quickly in that if you are going to be setting up your own company or if you're going to be looking to working as the principal within your own company, you'd need to incorporate a company first and then apply on your own behalf to the immigration department for a long-term work permit. The other way you referred to visa, there is the 12-month stamp, which allows, it's more of a visitors-based visa, which would allow you to live in Barbados for a year and you can work remotely. So if you have any specifics on that, you can always reach out to us here at Invest Barbados.
Ken, because I see Graham's comment about coming in late, and were you planning to summarize the Q&A or any of this kind of stuff for participants or those that were interested?
What we would do is we would address the specific the questions directly to the people who had asked the questions, but we are also putting a full version of the recording online as soon as we get it tidied up. So it's going to be on our website as well as the slides from the presentation.
So Graham would have a chance to go back and see some of the things that he didn't see today.
Yes, you can see the full presentation, the full webinar. How and who should I addressing Mia? How and who should I contact to discuss in future details of my specific skills and background and how to partner with an existing or start a new business in Barbados? Mia, what you can do is reach out to us at Invest Barbados. I am Ken Campbell. You can reach out to Ezra Catwell through info at Invest Barbados, and we can find out what your needs are, and we will put you in touch with the right players. Okay. I had one that had come in for Philip, and is it a challenge to find experienced technical resources in Barbados? What are your views on that one, Philip?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So the answer in short is no. You know, as Colin had said, there's a large number of technically skilled resources that are available. And because Barbados has been a hub for ICT in the region for a long time, we have a large pool of highly experienced resources to pull from. The ICT sector obviously covers a large area of different types of services. So there are, you know, different companies on island that provide recruitment type services like LCI consulting. that enable you to really find the resource with the skill set and competencies that you're looking for. So the short answer is no. Barbados has a large pool of resources, and there are companies here to help you do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Laurel has asked, what is the status of the proposed dual citizenship legislation? That would not be something that we discuss with this group of panelists. However, you can reach out to us again offline at info@Invest Barbados, and we can put you in the right direction to get you an answer to that. Now from Madden, we just take this one last question: is is there really scope for investing in the ICT sector in Barbados given the size of the market? I would let first let Philip address that very quickly as we're running out of time, and maybe Joel, you can take a stab at your experience.
Yeah, I think, you know, a bit of the point of my presentation was to say that Barbados is well connected within the Caribbean region and internationally. You know, geographically, we're well placed within the Caribbean, but also between Europe, North America, US, Canada. So we're well placed in our geography, but well placed in the connections that we have to those locations, as well. Of course, there are a growing number of international links with Africa, China, India, and so on. So when we speak about the ICT sector in Barbados, yes, the Barbadian market is small relatively, but we're really not restricting ourselves or limiting ourselves to just Barbados. It really is about providing services across the Caribbean and internationally. So I think Joel's company, Crucible, is a good example of that. And there are many others that are providing services across the globe. So there definitely is scope for investing in the ICT sector in Barbados.
And if I can pick up on that, Philip, I think when you say that the size of the market is the global market. Our market is the global market. We're not bound by Barbados. When we do things, we're looking for how can we use Barbados as a base and reach out and do work in Europe, the UK, and in North America, anywhere around the world. So, you know, it's really up to us as companies, and there are other companies like us. It's up to us as companies to look outwards at the global marketplace, not just the local Barbados marketplace.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We do have a few more questions, but time is running out. Time flies when we're having fun. So what we will do is, for those questions we didn't get to, we would look at them and address them directly and get back to you. I'd just like to show you, sorry, the wrong one. There is a face behind the dark black panel. I am Ken Campbell. I'm the director of investment promotion here at Invest Barbados. So in wrapping up, on behalf of the board, management, and the staff of IB, we are host today, we'd like to thank the panelists for their commitment and to time and knowledge. Joel, Aline, Philip Lewis, Colin Depredine, and our CEO, Kay Brathwaite. Thank you all for carrying this dialogue so well. We'd like to also take the time to thank you, the participants, for joining us. We hope that the discussions met your needs and has sparked some interest, and that you know that you can reach out to us for further details. And as I say, going forward, we stand ready to address any questions that you have. We will address all of them in the Q&A. For those, you can reach us at info@investbarbados.org, or just go to any of the contacts on our website. We will be sending a survey via email tomorrow, and we strongly encourage you to complete this. These surveys allow us to improve our the content of our webinars as we go forward, as this is one of a significant series that we intend to continue for the next, going forward. We would also send you links to an ICT promotional video, the presentation slides, and once you have it tidied up, the recording of the webinar. We also like to just, I think it was mentioned a few times, but just bear in mind that also for investing in Barbados, we also have several companies in Barbados which provide a range of outsourced services to the ICT sector. So if this is an avenue that you're looking to explore, then please do reach out to us and we can put you in touch with the relevant parties that would be able to meet your needs once we have a better feel for that. So without any further ado, we'd just like to let you know that Barbados has a welcoming investment climate, and we at Invest Barbados look forward to working with you towards making Barbados your ICT jurisdiction of choice. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Good. Bye.